Welcome back to the table and first look, and we are going to be giving you a first look at Sagrada Artisans. Yeah. Now, when we say first look, this isn't going to be a thorough look for a variety of reasons. No, first, we don't want to go through an entire game, but secondly, we can't. We're not allowed.
That's true. This is a legacy game, and so a lot of what we have in front of us, we just can't show you because
you can see this right here.
Because it's full of spoilers. Because if you've never played a legacy game, you'll know you'll play it over a series of connected games, and along the way, you're going to be unlocking a lot of different things. So a lot of those unlocks are meant to be surprises. We even have a stack of envelopes that we can't even show you the front of the envelopes because even the front of the envelope might be a spoiler. Yeah. So we're trying to avoid all of that.
Now, if you're familiar with Sagrada, the description of Sagrada but Legacy is probably enough, but I can tell you, we have peeked at a few things.
Yeah.
This game is going to ultimately be doing things that you're probably not going to expect. We are going to show you something, not right now, but we will show you something during this video that is a little further into the journal. We're allowed to show you one little page of one of the window boards. Mm-hmm. And just suffice it to say, the windows become quite a bit different than what you'd expect.
Yeah, let's talk about that because there's obviously, if you're looking at the board right now, one key component that's not in Sagrada, and that is these colored pencils. So this is an interesting twist actually on the mechanics of Sagrada. When you're taking a die, so for example, if I'm taking this purple 2, I'm not placing this purple 2 on my board. I'm actually filling in a spot, coloring in my stained glass window. And yes, what you're seeing in front of us is just a square board that actually kind of resembles Sagrada. But like David alluded to, this coloring allows them to do some crazy stained glass patterns.
Yeah, now
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we will leave it at that. But those stained glass patterns are always going to, at least to begin with, now with any legacy game, the rules are going to change, but they're generally always going to follow those same sorts of rules by not having the same color or number adjacent to each other. But as you can imagine, when you're not working with squares for dice necessarily, some of those rules are probably going to be adjusted a little bit.
Yeah.
So what we have in front of us here, we'll talk about what we can. We have our journal books. This is going to come with a journal book for every player. We've got it opened to window 1. On the right-hand side of that, you're going to see the actual window you're playing in. And on the left-hand side, you're going to see a page for that session, if you will. You're going to find the public objectives printed here, as well as 3 tools for that window. Now, you're also going to have some narrative here kind of introducing it because, like we said, this is a legacy. It talks about sort of your family being a contributor to these windows and all of these things.
And building this cathedral and just all thematic stuff. But also, every single page in this is different. Every single page is a different window with some different tools, some different objectives, maybe some different rules. I'm not going to show you anything that I'm looking at, but it gets pretty juicy. And I think that this is a lot of the fun of the game is that experience of turning the page to the new window and then going, oh, wow, like this looks crazy.
For sure. Like I would recommend if you get this game, you want to resist.
Yeah.
Certainly you don't want to look in any of the envelopes. And like we said, there's a bunch here. I'm going to fan them out, the backs. They all have the little sort of sticker wax seal. I can tell you some are thinner, some are thicker. There's going to be various components and different things that come into play with these things. But there's also this deck right here. This is the main deck box. This is going to be the box that you go through. And when you open it up, I can show you this. It says, start here. Very, very hand-holdy, this game. I think.
Well, that's good.
It's a legacy game, and because it's Sagrada, I think there'll be a lot of people who are maybe their first legacy experience.
I've heard from a lot of people in the comments, like previous times we've talked about this, that they're waiting for this to be their first legacy experience.
Yeah, and I think this will be akin to sort of those lighter legacy experience, something along the lines of a My City, although it plays obviously quite different. But you start there, you read this card, and then the first set of cards in there is going to be an intro to window 1, which I have right here. And you read this aloud. It has kind of a narrative here. I won't ruin that for you. And then at the bottom it simply says, play window 1.
That's it.
So, and if you've learned Sagrada in the very few pages at the beginning of the rule book that tell you how to play, it is very basic. But for those of you who haven't played, you're going to roll dice, put them out here, and then you're going to draft those dice and use those dice to fill in your board. It is a puzzle that you're solving here.
Yeah.
It's a snake draft. So in a 2-player game, we have 5 dice. If Ryan's first, he'll pick a die, I'll pick a die, then I'll pick another, and then he'll pick his last one. There will always be 1 die left on the board. But we use those die as we take them to fill out the spaces on our board. And in this game, we're going to play that over 12 rounds, hopefully filling in as much of this board as possible. Now, there are a few differences. In normal Sagrada, you have these tool cards and the public objective cards are out. They're printed here, and the tools work a little bit differently.
Yeah, in the regular game of Sagrada, if you're familiar, you have these favorite tokens, and your favorite tokens are based on the difficulty of your map. So the more difficult window you're putting together, the more of these favorite tokens you get. Well, in this game, we're all playing through the same book, so everybody has the same window and the same objectives with one little secret objective just for them. So you all have access to the same tools. You're not spending these favorite tokens anymore. But if you don't use your tools, they're actually worth points at the end of the game. So you're effectively giving up points to gain the benefit of these tools. And in addition, each tool is numbered. You have one that's usable once, one that's usable twice, and one that's usable 3 times. And you cannot use the one-use window tool more than once.
Yeah, so once you've filled that in, you're not going to use it again. You're also not going to get that point at the end of the session.
So while you do have a little bit more flexibility in how you're using these tools, because you don't need to worry about running out of favorite tokens, you don't have the flexibility to use a tool you love over and over. So you need to kind of plan ahead and look at these tools at the beginning of every window, because they are going to change throughout the game. And you need to kind of decide which ones you want to use and which ones you want to save for points. I think that's an interesting change for Legacy.
Yeah, definitely, because it has a building quality to it. Another big change is you're going to see some things probably on most windows, but right here it says new rules. A couple of these are fairly basic bullets, but the last one here says each player's window has 2 starred spaces. Now, this is potentially just for this first window. They may not do the same thing every time, but there's 2 starred spaces in the corners. Once all the players at the table have filled those spaces on any given round during the session, you're going to pause, and it says here to open envelope M. Now,
I like that.
We can't tell you in detail what envelope M is all about, but I do want to tell you a little bit. So this is not really terribly spoilery, but it brings the cathedral board into play. This is where you place your die, and if you've played a Legacy game, or even if you haven't, if you've taken a close look at what I'm pointing at here, you see a lot of dotted lines.
and numbers and things like that.
In Legacy games, there are always places to put stickers. This game is no different. It has a rule book filled with little squares where you're going to add new rules. There's stickers that you will apply in the rule book itself, and there looks to be stickers that you will apply to the cathedral board. What I can tell you about that is it's going to open up sort of an ongoing aspect to the game that involves basically every round that you play of the game is going to have potentially some impact on that board that's going to ultimately affect what players are going to contribute to this board, and then also give maybe those players a little bit of power that they could potentially use through the rest of the scenario, maybe once or twice.
I don't think it's spoilery to say that the thematic draw of this game, or what's pulling you through, is that you're all these families contributing to the cathedral. So I would be disappointed if there wasn't some kind of cathedral element to the game, right? And that's what you're seeing here with this board. And again, in regular Sagrada, you're just putting the dice out in front of you.
Yeah, one other really cool little tweak, and then we'll let you go, because we've shared, I think, enough to give you a taste of Sagrada, but I wanted to point this out. The first player token that we have here, it's a pencil sharpener.
It's just a clever little thing.
I mean, I think it's a clever idea. I can't show you what I'm about to tell you about, but it's not going to be this pencil sharpener that's in the game. They actually have a cool Sagrada-esque pencil sharpener that will come. But it is the first player, and they've really sort of leaned into the use of the colored pencils. And I, for one, I think that's a cool difference.
I think it is, too. I've actually had the pleasure to play through a game of this. I got to play through a window at Gen Con. They had a little preview event, and it was cool. Like, I know it feels kind of silly, but you'll see people like taking their colored pencils and even
for sure, all of this space up here.
There's plenty of space to doodle and color in and like make your own window. It'll look different and unique for everybody. So if you enjoy that little like coloring, it's almost like a coloring book on every page too.
I can tell you for a fact, when I play this, I will not be able to resist coloring every white space on here.
Yeah, all the little doodles.
How could you not?
No, absolutely.
I mean, these pencils might get worn down if I do that.
It's a good thing you have a pencil sharpener right at hand. I think what they've done here is very clever. And we haven't really played through the game, so we can't really comment.
Not at all.
But when they said Sagrada Legacy was coming out, I had a lot of questions like, what is this going to look like? I could not have pictured this, and I think that this is a really great way to handle that legacy element by giving you all of these really unique windows, so the game feels very different from a normal Sagrada game.
Yeah, and we'd mentioned this earlier. When Ryan says unique windows, they do get very unique. So as I'm saying these words right now, I am putting up an image of the one other unique window that we can show you. We've blurred out all of the important parts, so it shouldn't be terribly spoilery, but this is going to give you a sense for how this game is potentially going to evolve. And I can tell you, and then some. Because even some of the windows other than that,
this is an early window too, so
yeah, it is a very, very interesting take on Sagrada. If you have any questions about anything you heard, sorry, we can't answer them.
We can answer some questions,
but you can ask them nonetheless down in the comments below, and we will try to answer what we can. And as always, until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.